Joining me right now, we have the Canadian Ambassador to the United States, Kirsten Hillman. Ambassador, welcome. Thank you on this very important day. There's a lot of questions. I need you to help us understand what is happening here because Canadian officials, they've been in talks with the Trump administration, and yet these tariffs are set to take effect on Tuesday. First of all, can I even ask if there's a status of negotiations? Are there negotiations underway? Well, what we have been doing, and thank you very much for having me, what we have been doing since December, since the president, even before the president took office and was expressing concerns around the northern border, illegal migration, and fentanyl, we have been in discussions with his team on that. And just to put this into context, obviously these are important issues, they're important to Canada, they're important to the United States, but Canada is not a source of fentanyl into the U.S. Less than 0.5% of what the fentanyl that has been seized in the U.S. has come from Canada. And less than 1% of the people who come into the United States illegally come from the northern border. So it's a very small issue. That being said, important. And as I say, border security is important on both sides of the border. We only want people in our country who have the legal right to be there as well. And we certainly don't want drug trafficking into our country. So we have been in discussion with the Trump team since December about the president's concerns, and we acted on those concerns. We have invested 1.3 billion Canadian dollars, which is about $1 billion US dollars, in buying new equipment, getting new infrastructure, new technology for the border, and then new partnerships with the US and with the Trump administration to root out organized crime and fentanyl. And we're already seeing results we had since about 3 months ago. For months ago, we've had an 89% drop in irregular illegal migration from Canada into the United States. And remember again, it's an 89% drop from less than 1% of your total flows. So lots of success, lots of results already, lots of new partnerships that have already started, had a really good important exchange with Tom Homan. The borders are on Friday and senior members of his team walking through plans that we can do together. We've got a Canadian team and a team from the White House going to China to talk to them about precursors to really get at that problem. So in that sense, I don't know if I'd call those negotiations because really it's more of a collaboration, but that's been ongoing for a while now. You mentioned December was the start. Do you know if the president either prior to his inauguration 2 weeks ago now, or since has been involved directly in the talks? So the president has talked to our prime minister about this, and my understanding is that he has been briefed on it. That's what I've been told on the plan and on the results that have already been achieved. Okay. And yet the tariffs go into effect on Tuesday. Let me mention what J.D. Vance, our vice president, posted just a short time ago. Here's the quote. "Spare me the sob story about how Canada is our best friend. I love Canada and have many Canadian friends, but is the government meeting their NATO target for military spending? Are they stopping the flow of drugs into our country? I'm sick of being taken advantage of. You've just very eloquently shared the stats about particularly drugs coming into the country from Canada, and they less than 1% in terms of fentanyl crossing your border into ours. But your reaction to this, and what is the United States telling you it would take to stop the tariffs from going to effect on Tuesday? Is there a chance that would happen? I mean, we're being told that these tariffs are being put into place because of the border, because of fentanyl, and because of irregular illegal migration. And as I say, we have really leaned into that. We have expended a lot of money to put more boots on the ground, to buy more equipment, to enhance our partnership with the U.S. law enforcement and border enforcement. And we have asked, what more would you like us to do? Is there more that you need? Is there something missing here? And there's nothing that has come back as an additional ask. So we're focusing on what is being asked in relation to this specific action, and as I say, I feel that we have done a lot where we think that we're obviously demonstrating results already in terms of the concern that the president has raised. But if there's more, let's talk about it. But to date, there hasn't been more that's been put on the table on this particular topic. And yet that quote that I read you from our vice president, how do you interpret the tone of that? There are a couple of others that are similar in tone that I'm looking at. I don't know. I mean, I think that those are questions for them. I think that what I can say is that we are coming at this discussion with a full spirit of openness and willingness to collaborate and discuss any concern or issue or request that comes from the Trump administration. But we need to have a conversation about that is organized right. that the conversation around the border was fairly
Clear.
what they were hoping for was clear, and we responded. If there are other things that are of interest, they haven't been articulated to us formally. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if they are. Do you know what the president means when he says that the U.S. is subsidizing Canada to the tune of $200 billion? I'm afraid I can't answer that question. Canada and the United States have a vast trading relationship. We have almost $1 trillion trading relationship. That trading relationship is complementary. So you sell us more manufactured products than we sell to you. You have a manufacturing surplus with Canada, services surplus with Canada, equipment, vehicles, all this sort of thing.
We buy more from you than we sell to you.
But in terms of energy, a third of what we sell into the United States are energy products, and those energy products, quite frankly, if you talk to our oil-producing regions of the country, they feel they're selling them at a very fair, if not discounted rate, because we don't have a lot of infrastructure or geography to sell them to anyone else. And that product fuels your businesses, fuels your refineries, and keeps energy prices low for American consumers and American businesses. So, I think that if you talk to our energy sector, I think they might feel that if there's any country that is getting a bargain in this situation, it is probably the United States. But that being said, happy to try and understand a little bit more what the president is talking about. Our trade deficit in goods with the United States is $64 billion. In other words, we sell $64 billion more of goods to you than you sell to us. And that is entirely because of energy. And if you add services to that, it's about half the amount. And if you take energy out, you have a massive trade surplus with us. So I don't really know where the numbers come from, and I'm not sure where the 200 comes from. President Trump has included a retaliation clause posing further action if any country retaliates with higher tariffs. Does this threat concern the Canadians? Something that was really apparent yesterday and continues to be very apparent today is that Canadians across the country, all levels of our government, are determined to respond to what Canadians feel are unfair actions based on the actions that we have taken and are willing to take to address the concern that the president has expressed. They feel that this doesn't make a lot of sense. We have just renegotiated the USMCA under Trump administration in their first administration. That deal brings us to zero tariffs, essentially 99% tariff-free between our two countries. And so, I think Canadians feel like, well, wait a minute, those are the rules that apply between our two countries. And if the rules are going to be set aside, then we're going to have to react. So I don't think Canadians would accept their government. And it's clear from the reaction over the last less than 24 hours, they won't accept the government not standing up and being strong in the face of, I think, what they feel are tariffs coming in relation to an area of concern that we have worked very, very hard to address. Which brings me to my last question to you, Ambassador. What has been a reaction in Canada to Trump calling for Canada to become the 51st state of the United States? Well, I'll be honest, I think the Canadians. I think that we take it as a bit of ribbing, a bit of joking. Some people find the joke funny, some don't. But Canadians are very proud. We're just as proud of our country and of being Canadian as Americans are of their country and being Americans. So I think that pretty much every Canadian is interested in keeping it that way. You should be very proud. Canada's a great country, and I love visiting Canadian ambassador to the United States.